So although my job here on YouTube is to test a ton of makeup constantly, I like to have a small amount of products that I am constantly going back to. These are going to be my makeup products that are multitaskers, they are beasts in my collections, and they are ones that I just don't even think about reaching for, but I reach for them often. Every so often, I like to kind of refresh this category. So in today's video, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be going through all of my high impact, low effort makeup products that I really enjoy using on a daily basis. I did want to know a couple of things before we get started because I know I'm going to get a lot of questions and comments about this. Even though these are going to be my high impact, low effort makeup products, it does not necessarily mean that I'm going to be adding a minimal amount of products. As you can probably imagine, I do have quite a large makeup collection. So for me, when we're thinking proportionately, I am going to give myself a lot of minimal effort options here. And of course, I know that low effort is definitely subjective. I guess what I'm trying to say is I am constantly trying to find the best way to do the most. So these products that I'm mentioning might be like your full glam, and that's okay. And maybe this is actually so minimal for you, and that's okay also. If you are kind of taking some inspiration from my little makeup kit, feel free to customize it however it fits your needs and your lifestyle. And if you are new here, then welcome. My name is Christina. Please consider subscribing if you do end up enjoying this video, but without further ado, let's get started. All right, so starting off, I want to kind of go in order of how I would be applying these products. We've used this in my previous videos. This is just a container that I purchased at Sephora a couple of years ago. However, I don't think that this is currently on their site, but I have seen this at HomeSense, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, all of those types of stores. So I would highly recommend that you check those out. So first off, I will be including my Merit Great Skin Priming Moisturizer. This one is not going to lengthen the amount of time that I've noticed that my makeup is going to stay on. However, it does make everything go on a lot smoother. It feels like a nice creamy textured moisturizer, but it's not going to be too thick for the daytime, especially in the summer if you have oily skin like I do. These are both from Danessa Myricks. This is the Blurring Balm, just in the universal shade. So this one is going to be translucent. So specifically as a primer is how I use that. And then the Yummy Skin Water Powder Serum. This one I've kind of been on the fence about. I've spoken about this previously, but I think the combination of this, I've been seeing it a lot, and I feel like maybe that's how I will have the most success with this one. And I really do want to try it because I'm determined. I feel like so many people love it, and I'm like the only one that's had real issues with it. So these two are going in together kind of like as a duo, or to use as well with the Merit moisturizer. Now we're going to be going over all of like my complexion products, foundations, and tinted sunscreens, starting off with the Iris and Romeo Weekend Skin Warm Glow SPF 50. This is going to be a sunscreen, and I really enjoy this one. First of all, I like the packaging. I love when a sunscreen is like the soft packaging and has that pump. I find it very usable. And this product itself is a beautiful sunscreen with a hint of shimmer. It has like a little bit of sheen to it, not shimmer, sorry, but it makes the skin look incredibly healthy, and all around it just makes it look like you have a beautiful, beautiful glow. It does have a sheer to slightly medium buildable coverage, I would say, especially for a sunscreen. And I find this works especially well when I use it as my base, and then I use a concealer for the majority of the rest of my coverage. I would say if you have oily skin, maybe figure out if this is going to work for you as like your one and done complexion product. And if it doesn't, it still serves as a beautiful sunscreen underneath your makeup. Another tinted sunscreen that I have been using recently, and I've really been loving for how easy it works for me, the Color Science Sunforgettable Total Protection Flex Face Shield. This is also an SPF of 50. I have mine in the shade medium, I believe is the one that I got. And this is a beautiful sunscreen as well. Super fluid, very, very thin. It comes out white, and then it has like those pigment balls within it. Let me show you guys. And then it just blends in and becomes this like very medium sheer tint. I wish that they had a larger range for this, but I think that it's meant to be used underneath. Like it's not meant to be your one and only complexion product, but for me, I can get away with it, and I really like this one. It just feels nice and lightweight, and it leaves you with a little bit of a pearly sheen, but it's nothing too crazy. Look at my watch tan right there. I'm sorry. Next up, we have my trusty CL Tint and Protect. This one is in the number 7 tan. I actually also have the number 8, which was the initial one that I purchased, but number 7 tan matches me perfectly right now. And this again is going to be an SPF 50 tinted serum. It's a mineral sunscreen. It is such a beautiful, sophisticated formula. You do have your dropper here, which usually I'm not a huge fan of, but this one does such a good job at getting any of the excess product out with the little scraper. It doesn't get super messy. It's so runny and beautiful. It's easy to apply on the skin. And the reason why I think this one really stands out is, one, it feels very thin like a serum. 2, it's a mineral, so it's going to be less irritating on the skin. And it works really well whether you use a brush, sponge, or your fingers to blend it out. This is just all around such a good tinted mineral sunscreen. We have a couple of skin tints here. First off, my Makeup Forever Skin Boost. And I actually spoke about this when I first purchased it in my skin tint video. I went super in depth about a bunch of different skin tints, and you can see how much I've used of this one. It may not seem like a lot, but when we're thinking about the collection that I have, as well as how many different products I'm constantly testing, this is a good chunk of it, especially for having it maybe, I don't know, maybe around a little less than 3 months or so. I have this in the number 6. I do hate that the little shade number sticker came off. It doesn't seem to be glued on very well, and it has that dent, so it just doesn't work with that. But that's just a little side note for you guys. I also wanted to note that you can squeeze the entire unit. You don't have to just push this down if you don't want to. I will link my skin tint video down below if you want even more information on this, but truly it wears so well on the skin, looks super natural, it layers incredible with all my other makeup products, and it actually has very good longevity on me as long as I set it down with powder. Next, we have my Maybelline Superstay Skin Tint in the shade 220. This also has a dropper, but this dropper I do not like. It gets super messy. As you can see, that opening is way too big and it doesn't scrape off any product on that little dropper. So I don't use the dropper. I honestly just scrape what's on the sides of this. I have a couple of videos talking about this specifically, but I love this one. This is going to dry down a lot more than the CL one, but it's still going to give you a little bit of that natural sheen. As you can see, there's a little bit of those fine micro pearls in there. You can't see it on this skin, but it does definitely give you a very hydrated look on the skin. I think that this one compared to the L'Oreal skin tint dries down better. So for someone that has more combination oily skin, this might be a better option for you if you're looking drugstore. I also think this layers well with pretty much any makeup product that I put on top of it, and the longevity is so good on this one. So this is going to be my pick for a drugstore skin tint. And then lastly, we have a full-on foundation that I'm going to be adding into this, and I'm using my Dior foundation stick in the shade 3N. This is such a great shade match for me, especially in the summertime. It does lean a little bit olive, but I can make it work, especially when I get tan, because my skin does get slightly olive, but not enough to where I would categorize myself fully into the olive skin tone category. But I can kind of like color correct it with concealers and stuff if it starts to look a little green. But other than that, this formula is really beautiful. It feels like velvet on the skin. It does have a bit of a scent, which I am not a fan of, but you don't smell it after applying it initially. It kind of smells like flowers. I don't know why they choose to do that. I love a foundation stick. I find them very, very workable and easy to use. This one I have traveled with every trip that I've taken since I've purchased this last year. It's super easy to blend with a brush. That's my preferred way to do it, but you can also blend it with your fingers. It really does give you that velvety finish without looking dry or cakey on the skin. So I did want to include this because I feel like it's low effort because it's a stick, but maximum impact because it just gives you really nice medium coverage. All right, now we're gonna be talking about color correctors, which I'm only gonna be adding one, which is my trusty Sigma Spectrum Color Correcting Duo in the shade medium to dark. This is my second one, I believe, and you can see I've already hit pan on this one, and I'm right about to hit pan on this side right here. I love this because you can customize the shade that you get when you're color correcting. I love to mix these together. I like to use this all over my face, and then I'll mix the two for like under my eyes or any lighter areas of the face. This is great to color correct any acne, scarring, for the under eyes, and really just to prime sections of the face for concealer. So for instance, I do have a little bit of hollowness on my cheek, so I'll use this and then I will use my concealer to kind of even that out before I go in with any bronzer, because if I don't do that, then it kind of accentuates that hollowness where I don't want it. So that's a little tip and trick that I like to do. For concealers, we're gonna add this one because this is in my project pan. If you haven't been following my project pan, this is something that I have been working on, the Milk Makeup Future Fluid Concealer in the shade 15 NW. I actually took the stopper out of this one because I'm trying to get every last bit of this out. You can see we are almost out of this one. And I said that in my last project pan video about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago. I was like, in a week, I think this is gonna be finished, but I took the stopper out and I have gotten 2 more months out of it. It's crazy how much product is in here. So I'd highly recommend, if you think that you are out of one of your products, take the stopper out, see how much more you can get out of it, because this is still going strong. We are going to add this. And just in general, I love this one because it is going to be that neutral warm shade. So it does have that neutrality, but a little bit of warmth, so it doesn't look like my skin is super dull when I put this on. I love this for concealing around my entire face and kind of evening out the hollowness under my eyes before going in with a brighter concealer. This is the shade match to my face when I'm wearing foundation. So my foundations, or like my skin tints and stuff, are a bit darker than my natural skin tone on my face. Because I do wear sunscreen every day on my face, it is 1 to 2 shades lighter than my neck and like my arms and my body and stuff. So this matches my foundations, my tinted serums, my skin tints and stuff, my sunscreens, not necessarily spot concealing just my face. But with that being said, if I want to only use concealer, I will use this one. So this is a Tower 28 Swipe Concealer, and I actually just purchased this shade in the shade NoHo. I had MDR and OC, and one was 1 shade too light, and the other one was 1 shade too dark. So I got the shade right in between, and it is perfect. So it is my face skin tone with a little hint of warmth. So it's like a half a step warmer, which I find still works, because if I'm putting it all over my skin to even it out, it kind of evenly matches my neck anyways. It's a little bit light, but I can still make it work without making my face look ghostly, or where it looks 1 to 2 shades lighter, which is my natural face tone. I hope that makes sense. But I love this one. This is a water-based one, so it does go on very, very thin. It's not irritating on the skin. I find that it blends out very easily, and you get a ton of blend time with this one. At first, I felt like maybe this wasn't going to work too well for me because I felt like it was a little too hydrating, but I find that if you go in with a really thin amount and then like powder like you normally would, it wears beautifully. It gives you the most natural hydrated skin look, but it also has some longevity to it. This is going to be my one and done spot concealing product, or like if I only use concealer on my face, it's gonna be this one. Okay, and last two, of course, my Kulfi Main Match Concealer. So with this one, I can actually sometimes get away with using this as my one and done face concealer like I do with the Tower 28 one, but it really just depends on where my complexion is at the time. But usually I will use this under the eyes for a slight amount of brightness, and I'll use it all over the face to kind of lift up some areas of the face. So I do have some hollowness around my mouth, I have some hollowness under my eyes, and I really like to to use this to just overall brighten and add some dimension to the face. And then for fully brightening, I'll use the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Lift and Flex Concealer. This is the shade 8. It is slightly warm, but it's very bright, so it still kind of works for me in a way. I don't know how to explain that color theory wise, but just know that this one is a nice brightening concealer without looking like a white concealer on my face. So typically I'll go in with something like the Milk Makeup Concealer, blend that fully, and then I will go in under my eyes with this one to just brighten under the eyes. And sometimes I'll use this under the hollows of my cheek to lift up my whole cheek. And I find that it's really great. It's a little bit more of a dry formula, but that's not to say that this is hard to work with. I just mean that the finish of this is going to be more matte, so it doesn't look like you have extra product. It almost looks like you have a natural lift and contour to the face. So our next category, they're going to be liquid and cream cheek products, which are going to be bronzers and like blushes or blonzers. Starting off with my bronzers of choice. So we're going to be adding the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer Sculpt Serum. Is that what it's called? It's the liquid one, and I have the shade medium. As you can see here, I've done a number on this one as well. I really like this. At very first use, I was not sure about it, but truly this is going to be the product that you want if you're looking for something that just gives you the most natural bronze look. Like, it doesn't even look like you have any additional bronzer on the face. It literally looks like you just have natural glow to the skin. And the reason why I think this works so well for that is because the formula of this is super thin. If you've ever used the skin enhancer from Makeup by Mario in the pot, it's almost like that, except slightly thinner and not as tacky. This one does have a pump as well as a doe foot, which I think is really fun. I find that I don't get as good of a blend or like enough product with the doe foot, so I always pump this one out on the back of my hand and then I'll grab it with a brush from there. This is so beautiful if you're not huge on like tons of bronzer that you can see. I know that some people didn't like this, but I find that it's perfect if you're in the market for something that's super undetectable. Okay, and then my cream bronzer of choice is going to be the LYS Harmony bronzer, or in the shade Harmony. It's the cream bronzer, but this is incredible. I used to own this in the shade Courage, and that one was way too dark for me, but this is just perfect. I find that this is going to be a neutral bronzer with slight warmth to it, so it's perfect for my complexion. It's super creamy. Half the time I just have to tap it onto the skin rather than swipe it, and that is plenty product in that area. I kind of go back and forth, and I also kind of go back and forth on whether or not I swipe it directly on the skin or I take a brush and take it on this and then put it on the skin. It really is such a versatile product. If you're looking for a super easy no fuss bronzer, this one I think would definitely be the one, especially if you're into cream products. I don't find that this is too slippery. I do find that it has slight thickness to it, or like grip to it almost, so it's not slipping and sliding all over the skin. I have traveled with this since I have purchased it. It truly is one of my favorite products right now. I also have this Say liquid bronzer in the shade Swim. This is the Dew Bronze. Spritz I think is the other one that I own, but Swim is the one that has been working for me recently. This is the same texture as the Dew blushes, so it's a little bit of that gel cream type of product. If you are looking for something that feels lightweight but blends out seamlessly, I would say that this product honestly is like a hybrid between these two. It has the thinness and blendability of Makeup by Mario, but it has the impact of the LYS. I find that I'm very particular with my bronzer colors, so I feel like the majority of people that do wear bronzers feel the same exact way that I do, but this one has been a hit for me. I truly love this one. So newer to my collection, but one that I have been thoroughly enjoying is the Sachu Beauty Contour Stain. I have this in the shade number 3, Giving Drama, and I did talk about this in a previous video. I will link it down below where I'm kind of demoing this, but you have the product here in this sponge tip, which I'm not crazy about the sponge tip, but this one is a smaller sponge, and I find that I can slightly control this better than other sponge tip products, but that doesn't go to say that I would prefer something different here. But the product itself is really good. Again, the name name of the game is going to be thin and blendable, which this one is. I find that this has a slight cool tone to it, which is perfect since it's supposed to be that contour. Now, I'm not sure how it does in terms of longevity compared to the other bronzers that we have already. I will have to get back to you guys on that, but I can say that I've worn this throughout an entire day of wearing makeup and I haven't had any issues. So it stayed put, super easy to blend. I will say that the blend time on this one is shorter than the other liquids that we've talked about already. So keep that in mind. I would suggest that you work in sections. So one side of the face, blend it out, and then the other side of the face, and then blend that out. But really beautiful product. I love that this package is very compact. I just think that's so nice to travel with and just in general to store. Okay, now let's talk about a couple of products that I would consider blonzers that I'm going to be adding here. We have these two products here, Huda Beauty blush filter in the shade Latte. I truly love this formula, these blush filters. I think that they are incredible. They have a slight sweet scent to them, but it's so subtle that I actually don't mind it whatsoever. And it's kind of pleasant, I will say. Once it blends out, you don't smell it at all. It's just a fun experience as you're applying it. But this again is in the shade Latte. It does have this warm rose tone to it. It has a little bit more brown, so that's why I feel like it works really well as a bronzer or blonzer. This came out with another shade, I believe it's called Coco Loco, and both of them were marketed as bronzers anyways, but this one I can get away with it being my blush as well because it does have that pinky brown tone to it. These really dry down and they look incredible on the skin. You do have blend time with these. I would say maybe not like where you can swipe it all over the face, oops, and then blend it out. I would probably still go in and blend it on sections of the face. That's what I typically do. I have used this actually on my cheeks, on my eyes, and on my lips, and I really, really like this color on my lips. I think that this is just top notch. And then we have the Rhode Toasted Teddy. Is that what I got? No, I got the shade Freckle. I always think I got Toasted Teddy because that was like the viral one, but I got Freckle. Oh, actually this isn't a blonzer. I was thinking I had Toasted Teddy. So this one's gonna be more of a blush, but I'm gonna add this one simply because I bought this a couple months back, I think at the same time that I bought the lip liners when they launched, and I really haven't reached in and used this as often as I should be, because I do feel like this is a really good formula. It's nothing innovative, it's nothing that I haven't seen or I don't have in my collection, but I do think that it's good. I do like the color on myself and I do want to use it. So that is going in there. Lastly, for kind of blonzer shades, Danessa Myricks. This is another one of the cream blushes in the shade Latte Spice, or I'm sorry, Spiced Latte. This came out in a Christmas bundle, but I believe that this one is now permanent to the collection. I could be wrong, but such a beautiful tone. It's almost like that Huda Beauty Latte one, except this one doesn't have as much deep brown in it. It's a little bit more of, what would I call this? Like, almost like a terracotta, but not as deep as like your typical terracotta. And if you've ever had experience with this formula, you know that these last forever. They dry down really well and they last forever on the skin. This is great, especially if you have oily skin. These are marketed towards people with oily skin, but that doesn't go without saying that any skin type can use this, but it just works super well, especially if you are more hesitant to use a creamy type of blush because you're not sure if it's gonna slip and slide on the face. This one I think is pretty foolproof. Okay, a couple of liquid and cream blushes. Another one of those Sachu Beauty cheek stains, but this one is going to be more of a blush. This is in the shade number 5, I'm Hot, and it's a bit of a brick red with slight orange tones to it, and I really like this one. I believe I demoed this one in the same video that I talked about the contour one as well. I love this shade because it brings some natural warmth to the skin, almost like a natural flush, and I do feel like this lasts very long on the cheeks. Another shade everyday dew blush product. This is in the shade Lady, and this is a recent extension within their dew blush line. And this is going to be a bit of a muted rosy tone, and I actually really love these during the summertime for my skin tone, because as I get more tan, shades like these kind of pop a little bit more without being deeper. So they kind of brighten my face in a way, and I really love that fresh, healthy glow that these give me. This one is very similar to Rosy, except I feel like this has a bit of a deeper mauve tone to it, which works incredibly well if you have medium to tan skin. It doesn't look like it would be that flattering, but truly it's really pretty. I have my Persona multi-stick. I always have at least one of these within my everyday makeup kit because they are just so good. This is in the shade Guava. I think this is a newer shade within their line, and I have the newer packaging, which I think is really beautiful and elevated. This is going to be a little bit of like a peachy pink shade, and on me, again, it's going to give me that brightness that I sometimes crave, especially in the summertime. These are going to be slightly more creamy, a little bit more hydrating and dewy on the skin. So what I like to do with these is put this on before I powder. And then after I powder, I'll do another swipe of this, but I'll like take it on my brush, I'll dab my brush on it, and then I will tap it onto the skin to give it almost like a sandwich method. And it gives you so much pigmentation, and it also kind of brings back that dewiness to the skin, but you have the longevity since you also have this underneath your powder. For my cream blush, we have the Rare Beauty Bouncy Blush. This is the matte bouncy blush in the shade Worth. This is by far my favorite shade that they came out with within the line, and it's gonna be a bit of a like, how do you explain this one? So this one is described as a rose mauve tone, I believe, online. But on me, I feel like it's a little bit of like a reddish rose tone, if that makes sense. So I think that this one can almost look like a natural flush because it has a bit of deepness where it looks a little bit red, but it's not so much that it's a red blush. This can also almost be a bronzer, but it's a bit brighter than that. I think that they nailed that matte cream blush look, and I'm very excited that we're seeing this more in Western makeup. Okay, so we're still talking cheek products, but we are going into powder, and I do definitely think I went overboard on the blushes, but that is simply because I love a blush. I love a blush. I am constantly rotating, so I figured, let's be real, I'm gonna be rotating a ton, but these are some of my favorite summer colors. And I forgot to mention this in the bronzer category. This is the Bare Minerals bronzer in Kiss of Spice. This is newer to me. I picked this up during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, I believe. These two are in the bronzer collection from Bare Minerals. I've talked y'all's heads off about this particular shade, Kiss of Copper. I love this. It is a beautiful coppery rose tone, while this one is definitely more of a bronze. These have a sheen to them. They are baked, so they look super natural on the skin, and they just give you the most ethereal glow. You can see there, this one definitely looks more like a bronzer, but I find if I layer it with another blush color, or if I go in with a very light hand and kind of work this right in between like my cheekbone and the hollow, it really does look like a bronze, beautiful flush. I think the finish of these make them work so well for like a one and done type of product because it has that sheen to it, but they're also really nice warm tones. Kind of in that same realm of bronzer, but this one I would still categorize more as a blush. The Dior blush in the shade Rosy Glow. So I know that they recently reformulated these. I don't have any intention of buying the new ones just because I do have two of these, including this one, and they're still, as you can see, not used enough. So I'm going to be sticking with these. I don't know if the new ones are new formula or if it's just new packaging, but anyways, this is a beautiful bronzy rose shade. It's like right there in the middle. I would say it's like those two Bare Minerals colors combined. So it does have that rosiness to it, and it also has the brown. And I say this all the time, and I think a lot of people do as well. These don't swatch nearly as well as they apply on the skin with a brush. When you apply it with a natural haired brush, these apply so diffused and beautiful beautiful and it gives you such a nice glow, but it still looks matte enough to where it's not too much. My House Labs Fire Moon blush, I talk about this in almost every video that I talk about blush. You guys don't need to hear much more, but this is one of my all-time favorite blushes for the color as well as the formula. It's buttery, it's smooth, and the color is just perfection. And we're adding another baked blush. As you guys can tell, I'm really loving baked blush, but I always love baked blush during the summertime because I find that it gives me the longevity of a powder blush, but the shine that I want to make it look like my skin looks nice and healthy. This is the Say one in Chow, very similar to the Fire Moon and the Kiss of Copper blushes here, but this one also has a little bit more impact, and I would say it looks a little bit more peachy than brown, you know, like the Fire Moon can sometimes come off a little bit more neutral peach or beige, while this one is definitely more of a peach tone. I know that you can't see, I have so much powder on my finger, but this one is so beautiful. I really enjoy this one. So this is going in, and we're gonna get lots of use out of that one. And then we have my YSL blush that I got during the Sephora sale. This is in number 37. Again, going to be more of a peachy shade, but it does have a bit of pink in there. Really impactful, very pigmented. You only need a little bit of this, but this formula truly is so beautiful and buttery. I did get it during the sale, and I wanna say that I would buy this full price because it is so smooth and buttery on the skin, and it makes it look airbrushed, but you could get away with other blushes that have the same shade, honestly. You don't need it, but if you're looking for a high quality blush, this is a good one. Okay, the LYS powder bronzer. This has been my go-to since they sent this to me. They did send this to me a couple months back. This is also in the shade Harmony, and it is the perfect tone for me. I always complain about bronzers being too muddy or skipping on the skin, and this one is the best one that I have found in a very long time. So it's so smooth and buttery, and it has this beautiful neutral tone to it. Let me see if I can show you guys. I tried to really get a lot of product there. That's why you're seeing a bunch of powder fall out, but it has a little bit of a sheen to it, so it doesn't come off on the skin flat, and it also doesn't look patchy, and I think it helps that it has a little bit of that like shine to it without being too much. And it's so impactful, so pigmented, but not too much to where you struggle with blending it out, you know what I mean? It's really good. I highly recommend. I feel like not enough people talk about this specific product, but it's so good. Oh, and lastly, I almost forgot this liquid blush. So this is the brand In Sync in the shade Brown Sugar. This was a recommendation from Amanda Z. She loves her red blushes, so I know that she knows what she's talking about when she talks about red blushes. This one is kind of like this brick red tone that has a little bit of brown to it, as the name suggests, and it is a beautiful bronzer, but I also have used this solely as a blush, and it looks incredible. Like, do you see that tone on the skin? It just makes it look like a flush, but on my particular skin tone, I can get away with this being my blush or my bronzer or both. Okay, so I'm gonna close that up for now, but now we're gonna be talking about some eyeshadow picks that I have. If you guys have not seen my one and done eyeshadow video, I will link that down below as well. I definitely would consider my one and done eyeshadows as high impact, low effort, so really any of those you can use, but these are just gonna be the ones that I'm gonna put within this capsule of makeup for now, and I definitely do kind of like rotate with a lot of these, so just keep that in mind. But I'm just gonna kind of like breeze through these because I'm pretty sure I spoke about almost all of these already. So the RMS I like in the shade Flare. It's a beautiful antique gold shade, and these are super lightweight and thin on the eyes. Definitely more pricey, but I think that a little bit goes a very long way. Something in that same antique gold category. I've spoken about this 1,001 times, so I'm not going to go on and on about it. But the Charlotte Tilbury Cream Shadow in Amber Gold, this is my favorite antique gold because it gives so much dimension on the eyes. It's nice and creamy, and this one does not smudge smudge and crease on me. And then we have two Armani liquid shadows. This one is 69S and this is 25M. This is sandalwood, and I believe this is like, I've seen it two ways. It's bronze or auburn, I believe, are the different shades. Whatever it is, 69S. These are incredible because you need like one little dot on your eyes and it'll blend super far. They last a really long time on the eyes. Sometimes I'll use an eye primer, but other times I won't. It really just depends, but these look incredible. I've got a couple of eyeshadow sticks. These I did a short on very recently. I will link that down below. But the Too Faced Quickie Queen, I have Fairy Dust and Sunset Sizzle. These are really, really good. You definitely need an eyeshadow primer with these though, because they will crease. They're very nice and thin and super, super creamy, so they're very easy to work with. The impact of these are great. They look like they're kind of metallic upon swatch, but then when you blend out, it kind of looks like a wet eye effect, and they're just gorgeous. I love to use these together, but I've also used them separately and with other eyeshadow products as well. Another great one and done eyeshadow, this NARS eyeshadow stick in the shade Laguna. This one is a newer one. This is going to be a bit more of a bronze shade, so if I'm looking for a one and done eyeshadow stick that is a bit deeper and a little bit more like almost like a smoky eye, this is what I will reach for. And then this is one of the Urban Decay eyeshadow sticks, and this is in the shade Blurred Out. And at first when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is not going to work for me. But actually, for the last couple of weeks, I've been using this on my waterline as like a brightening eyeliner, and oh my goodness, it works so well. On the swatch, it looks gray, right? But for some reason on my waterline, it looks incredible. It's like this bright creamy beige shade on my waterline. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that against my skin tone, this still looks like a very bright shade. And I love this because unlike a white eyeliner or sometimes even like a cream colored eyeliner, it's not as intense. I did wear this in that short that I did of the Too Faced shadow sticks, so you'll see that in the final look, but truly it's so good. And because it's an eyeshadow stick, it wears really long on my waterline. And my pick for a powdered eyeshadow, high impact, low effort, the Surat Beyond Beige eyeshadow palette. This one again is in my project pan. I use this a ton. These shades work so harmoniously together, and they also work alone, or if you want to use them within an eyeshadow look. This is a go-to for me. Truly, it's so good. I almost forgot this one, the Half Magic Sparkle Stick in the shade Beige Mystique. This is definitely one of the products that inspired this video, because since it is an eyeshadow stick, it is low effort but super high impact. It looks incredibly metallic. It has a really great champagne taupey base, but then when you blend it out, it acts almost like an eyeshadow topper. It's like that chunky glitter, but it looks so impactful, very similar to the Kulfi Sona Sona, which I still really love. But because I just want to kind of hone in on a couple of products, I'm only going to include this one because I find that those two are very similar. I like to blend this one personally with my fingertips because it does have that chunkier glitter, so it's easier to work with that way, and it takes away the annoyance of using a glitter powder eyeshadow because there's absolutely no fallout with this one because it is within that creamy base, so you have time to blend it out. It stays on the eyelids, and then once it sets, it's there. I did want to also add my eyeshadow primer. I have this NARS eyeshadow primer. I also use the Ulta matte eye primer, but I've had this one for a bit longer, so I do want to make sure that I utilize this one before it goes bad. And then I do want to talk about some eyeliners and the mascaras and brow products that I'm going to be adding. So my two holy grail go-to mascaras the last couple of weeks, or actually years for this one and like weeks and months for this one, the Heroin Make Long and Curl Advanced Film Mascara. This one is my go-to. I use this one alone. I use it to layer with other mascaras. This is by far the best mascara that I have used in so long. It's gonna be my priming mascara. So if you guys have ever heard me say like, oh, I like to use X mascara mascara with a long wearing curling mascara. This is that long wearing curling mascara. It's an Asian brand, so it's a Japanese brand, and it is the only thing these days that holds the curl of my lashes. I have very stubborn, straight Asian lashes, and this one will hold it no matter what. And I like to layer this with any other waterproof mascara, any other tubing mascara, and it just works. If you find that you need something to help you hold a curl, check this one out, see if it works for you. It is so long lasting though that you have to go in with a separate mascara remover, which they do sell. So this one is the Kulfi Buddy Mascara. This is a tubing mascara that they recently launched, and wow, it is so good. I've always wanted to use tubing mascaras regularly, but I haven't been able to until this one. So this has great lengthening, such good lengthening. It darkens your lashes. It gives you lots of volume, but with saying that, it can get a little bit clumpy if you're not careful. I do think that the ball tip is a little bit finicky. I end up just taking everything off that I can on the ball tip, and then I use the actual length of the brush. But what I'll do is I'll go in with my Hair and Make mascara, let that completely dry, and then I will go in with the Buddy mascara, and it'll give me extra length, extra volume, and it looks incredible. You guys have noticed that my lashes have been looking really long and just more dramatic recently, and it is definitely because these two. I don't even wear like cluster lashes or any type of lash extension because I have been enjoying this effect together so much. Whenever I use this, I don't actually have to go in with a separate makeup remover since this is a tubing mascara. When I have this on my lashes, it also tubes around this product as well. So when I go in with my cleanser and warm water and I take this off in the shower, it will also remove this mascara, which was a pleasant surprise, and I think it's great. Sometimes it doesn't get all of it off, so I do have to kind of go in and use that mascara remover, but definitely not as much, and it works so well together. I'm telling you guys, this is the magic combo. Okay, so some eyeliners that I want to include here. I have really been enjoying this Sephora collection. It's just like their pencil eyeliner, the 24-hour colorful eyeliner. This is in the shade Tiramisu, which it's basically just a matte brown. And you guys know my love affair for the Makeup by Mario perfect brown eyeliner. I've used one up. I'm already on my second one, but this one is a contender for sure. So this is super creamy, very blendable, very dark brown while not being too dark where it looks like a black eyeliner. It still looks like a brown liner. Let me show you guys. See how much impact that had? So creamy, so easy to use. I can use this in my tight line. It doesn't budge. I think it might have even better longevity than the Makeup by Mario one, or it's like exactly the same. The Can Make Creamy Touch Liner. This one is a Japanese brand. My husband actually purchased this one for me when he was in Japan. And again, this is in the number 3, which is just a regular brown. I love this because of that little micro tip that it has. This is such a fine tip liner. You can do it even finer than that. I kind of just like push down a little bit hard, but this is great. Sometimes I don't even have to go in and flick out my wing liner with a separate brush. I can just draw the eyeliner with this and it's thin enough for my preferences. This stays on the eyes forever. And then we have this Curate one. So this is going to be a double-ended eyeliner. Well, actually, no, there's only one side that has an eyeliner. Let me explain. So this side is an eyeliner, and I like to use this in my waterline. Kind of the same effect as that Urban Decay one, where it doesn't look like it would be brightening in the waterline, but it is super brightening. It is the perfect shade for my waterline. Right here, you can see it's a beige, but once it hits my waterline, you guys, I'm telling you, it is the most natural, perfect brightening eyeliner. It's kind of crazy. I don't get it, but it works. And then on the other side, you twist it open and it's this little sponge, and in that little well is product. It's kind of like the shimmer product. And I love to use this on the inner corners of my eyes to brighten it up. In the inner corner, I don't know about you guys, but my eyeshadow, if I put any there, it always fades. It fades so quickly, but this one actually has some pretty good longevity. I wouldn't say that it's budge proof for like an all day wear, but it does last very long, especially if I layer it with a cream like eyeshadow stick. Really beautiful, easy duo, and it gives you the freshest look on the eyes. And then we'll talk about my brow products. So of course, I'm going to be using my Rare Beauty Flexible Brow Gel. This is just my go-to brow gel all the time. And then for super easy days, I use the Milk Kush Tinted Brow. What is this called? Kush High Roll. I have this in the shade Grind, and it is going to be a tinted brow gel, but it's a tubing tinted brow gel. So very, very interesting there. It does kind of like make your eyebrows look thicker, but I will say that I like to take off as much as I can off of the spoolie because this can get quite messy. I will say that at first, this is not easy to use. You kind of have to practice a little bit or go in with a super, super light hand. This is a hit or miss from what I've heard. Some people love it, some people hate it. I am in the love it camp. I think that it's such a good product. It covers filling in the brows as well as holding the brows in place because it does hold them in place all day long. And then my drugstore pick that is pretty much the same exact thing as the Rare Beauty one, the L'Oreal Brow Lamination. This is that same liquid wax texture. I've compared the ingredient list. It's the same exact thing, you guys. And it does have that very small spoolie. It's a bit longer, which I find lets you brush it through the brows a little bit quicker. I do think that the Rare Beauty holds my brows a little bit more than the L'Oreal one, the more I've used these two compared to each other, but it still gives the same look. And then my brow pencils. So I have my Kosas Brow Pop Nano. This is in the shade Brown Black. Again, it's going to be that micro tip that I think works so well when you're trying to go between your brow hairs. It just draws onto the actual skin really well, and then you can create those little micro hairs at the bottom to shape your brows or the top. And then some brow pens that I'm going to be including, the e.l.f. brow pen, the Holy Strokes micro brow pen. I think that this is espresso. Very thin brush, really usable. This one I kind of have to like stamp onto the brows though, because it doesn't actually get too much liquid into the well, which isn't a terrible thing, but you do kind of have to work with it a little. But I still think that it's very easy to use, especially if you find that brow pens are a little too runny for you or they're hard to work with. I think this one is better because you get less of the liquid coming out at one time, so it's a lot easier to work with. And then of course my Maybelline Build a Brow. This is also the pen. I don't use the gel, I only use the pen side, and this again is going to be like a black brown shade. This does give you more pigment than the e.l.f. one, which makes it faster to work with, but you can go overboard if you're not careful. But with some practice, this can give you such a nice defined natural brow look. Let's go over the powders that I'm going to be including, and I've talked about these at length as well, so again, not going to go too in depth unless you guys have any extra questions for me. Leave them in the comments down below. My baking powder of choice for this summer is going to be the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Loose Setting Powder in the shade Banana Bread. I gave this one a break for a little bit because I found that it was a little too yellow and dark for my skin tone for the last half of last year, so I was using the shade Peach Pie, but now it works perfectly. It's the perfect shade. I do still have the old version of the packaging, and this one does have the scent, which is fine. I mean, I'm going to use this up until I finish it. I don't need to get the new packaging. I'm fine with it. I love to bake with this one, but it's also great for just setting with a brush. My Laura Mercier Ultra Blur Pressed Powder. This one has gone through the ringer, you guys. Again, in my project pan. This is just the translucent one. I've pressed this one back and I'm doing a number on it. I love this as a finishing powder. It truly makes your skin look ultra blurred, and once I finish my makeup, if I do a very light dusting of this, it just melts all of my blushes and bronzers, kind of more of a gradation between those and my foundation, so it doesn't look like I just stuck on a really pigmented blush or bronzer on the skin, you know. Everything just kind of melts together, and it's a great blotting powder. If I'm looking oily, I will take a damp sponge and just blot away my oil, and then I'll dust a little bit of this wherever I need it with that extra oil control. It's beautiful, highly recommend. And then my Kosas Cloud Set powder in the shade Comfy. This one I use in the same way that I use this Laura Mercier one as my finishing powder as my setting powder. Sometimes I'll use only this one if I am not baking. This is the best powder for you if you do not like powders. Because it is baked, it does have that slight sheen to it, so it looks super natural. But I don't mean sheen as in it's going to make your skin glowy. I just mean that it's not going to look as flat as your typical finishing powder. You know I need my setting sprays. If you're oily like me, it is a must. So I'm putting this in here because I'm almost done with it and I would like to finish this. This is the Milk Hydro Grip Refresh Spray, Grip Set plus Refresh Spray. This is just the travel size. I do have a full size one ready to be used, but this one is going to last me quite a while because these last a long time. This is a great setting spray. I don't think it's the longest lasting, but I do think it does extend the wear of my makeup for a couple more hours than if I didn't use a setting spray. These two I have been loving. So I've loved this for years. You guys know this is almost empty. Like there's like nothing in there. My Until Dawn finishing spray, and then this is the powder melt from One Size. So this is a setting spray, but it's gonna give you more of that typical setting spray finish. So when you spray it on your face, you do have more of a natural finish on the skin, almost dewy, but not too dewy, which is why I like this. I feel like it still preserves the matte look on my skin that I want from my powders, but it melts the powders in so it doesn't look cakey. It doesn't look like you're wearing powder. And I've also seen people use this to melt down the bake that they do on their skin. I personally have not done that yet. I am curious to try it. So this will kind of melt down any powders and this will set my skin how it is. And I'm adding this in here because I tend to reach for this a lot. This is just my dry shampoo brush cleanser, just to give it a quick express clean. This is not going to be a deep cleaner, but if I'm in a pinch and I need to clean my brushes, I will use this. And I also travel with this one, so I don't have to bring an excess amount of brushes. I'm actually not going to be showing you guys my lip products, like my everyday lip products, because to be quite honest with you, they vary so incredibly much. I'm constantly changing up my lip color, my lip combo, if I want to wear a matte or a gloss or what have you. But I will mention these because these kind of seem to be foundational products. These kind of, I find myself reaching for these almost every time I wear makeup. So this is actually going to be a lip treatment, the Dr. Dennis Gross Plump and Repair Lip Treatment. This is a plumper that I truly feel like plumps your lips for an extended amount of time. I wouldn't say days at a time, but I would say it gives you a plump look and it'll kind of stay like that for a couple of hours. It's just a clear treatment, like a clear, almost like lip oil. It gives my lips a lot of natural pigmentation because it irritates the lips. That's what it's supposed to do. It's a lip plumper. And it actually makes my lips more plump. It's so good. And the reason why I think this one is so nice is because it also hydrates the lips at the same time. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes lip plumpers can dry my lips out. This does not. So it covers that plumping effect and prepping of the lips before makeup. And then I love to use a tint, a water tint. They have kind of been my obsession recently. And these three have been ones that I have been reaching for a ton. So my Ulta Beauty Weightless Water Lip Stain in the shade Plum Paradise. This is the one I've had the longest in comparison to the other two we're going to talk about. It's a water stain, so it's going to be that very light watery texture, and I love the doe foot on this. I actually feel like it hugs the lips really well. It has like that divot in it that hugs the lips. It's not going to be universal, but I do think that it gives you a little bit more control. I will swatch these for you guys so you can see the colors in comparison. This looks like it would be a super deep dramatic color on the lips, but it deepens the lips the perfect amount. So it's the best foundational color. I don't have a lot of pigmentation in my lips. You lose pigmentation in your lips typically as you get older, and the pigmentation in mine are not as pronounced as they used to be. So this kind of just brings back the color in order for me to build up on top of it. It doesn't feel like anything on the lips, which also means it doesn't hydrate the lips. And I find that's the case with all water stains. So I would say that it's nice because it's long wearing, and you can also put a lip balm on top drop and it doesn't budge. You can put a lip oil, like a clear lip oil, it doesn't budge. And I did a comparison of these two in one of my recent videos. This is the Benetint Dark Cherry and the e.l.f. Cherry Cola. I did pick up a couple more of these shades, which I will be reaching for, but this one I know I'm gonna get a lot of use out of. This is going to be, as it says, a dark cherry, and truly it's the perfect dark cherry shade. It's not gonna be berry. It really is a red that is deepened, and I love it so much. I failed to mention, I like using these as a blush too. And this is Cherry Cola. This one's gonna be a little bit more of like an orangey red shade, but it's still deepened, so it's still like a brick red. They all serve the same purpose, but they give me a different color, a different look with each one, and I love every single one of them. All right, now let's talk about the tools that I tend to reach for very often that are going to live here as well. So my lash curler of choice, I have been using the Curate lash curler, I think since the end of last year. Before that, I had the Shiseido one, I still do, but the Curate one I love because the amount that you can open this one is much wider than any other lash curler, and the curve on it is very subtle. If you have more of a flat profile like I do, my lashes do not curve a ton, so this is perfect for me. My two eye drops, this one is the Rodo Lycée Rich Premium one for contacts. I purchased this in Japan, so if you ever had Rodo eye drops, it gives you that minty feeling to the eyes. This is the same, except this is safe for contacts, and then Lumify to whiten the whites of my eyes, especially when I'm filming. I typically only use this when I'm filming though, or for like special occasions. These can be drying on the eyes though, because the way it works is it closes up those blood vessels in the eyes. So I only really use that when I'm filming, doing close-ups, or for special events, but it works incredibly well. And then my little razor in case I have to like shave a little bit of peach fuzz or mustache. And then my little scissors, again, if I need to like trim my brows or something. Tweezers, again, for brows, scragglies. And I have this little lash comb in case my lashes get clumpy, and I like this because it like folds down. Really great for travel. And I like the metal ones because I feel like the metal ones actually go through and brush the hairs versus the plastic ones. And my little hair clips, I wear some form of these whenever I do my makeup and I have my hair already done, or if I just want it out of my face, I will use these. So these are all going in here too. Okay, and I just want to show you guys our finished product. So we have all of our standing products, sunscreens, skin tints, concealers, you know, cream blushes, everything we already went through, setting sprays. And then if we scoot this back, you can see here we have our powders, powder blush, powder bronzer, the little liquid blush right here, my color corrector, everything powder-wise is in here. And then at the bottom, we have our tools that I just kind of stuck on top, shadow sticks, liquid shadows, cream shadows, and the powder and base go down here. So this is our high impact, low effort kit. Alrighty, you guys, and that concludes our high impact, low effort makeup kit. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please let me know if you have any thoughts about the makeup that I included in mine, and if you may have similar products that you're including in yours. And as a follow-up to this video, I do plan on doing an entire look based on the products that we put in our little makeup kit. So if you want to catch that, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it. Until then, I will leave a video right here for you guys that YouTube thinks that you would be interested in based on what you have been watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!